Grants Gateway Department of Labor CFA 2017 Contract Development Webinar. So first of all, we're just going to go through this agenda. We're going to do a quick introduction. We'll get into the Grants Gateway roles. We'll talk about the contract development process and the things that you're going to need to be doing, and then we'll mention some of the documents. So I wanted to point out resources. If you're wondering who you need to contact, if you have questions or issues. So if you have specific questions on your budget, work plan, or anything related to your program, your specific contract, again, that's not something I can help with or the Grants Gateway team can help with, but that's what your program or contract manager at Department of Labor can work with. So contact that person for those types of questions. But certainly, if you do have questions about the Grants Gateway, we have a help desk. We have an email and phone line that you can contact any day between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. And you can see that's grantsgateway@its.ny.gov, or that phone number 518-474-5595. So if you need help with something like, I'm stuck in a role, or I don't know if I have the right role, or we don't have the right person to log in, or this doesn't seem to be working right, feel free to let us know at the Grants Gateway Help Desk. And if it's related directly to your contract and the contents of that, please do contact your program or contract manager at DOL. So you should be aware of the roles, and this is something that a lot of people get hung up on in the beginning, is if they're in the right role or not. So if you've ever applied for a grant in the Grants Gateway for a competitive grant, there's someone who can apply and someone who can fill out applications and submit applications. And those people actually get emails back from the system when statuses change on their applications or contracts. That doesn't happen specifically or all the time with a non-competitive, which is what yours are considered. Yes, they were competitive because you applied through the CFA, but they're non-competitive the way we created them in the Grants Gateway. So what that means is you may log in and not have a task, and you might have to search for something. So to start with, let's make sure you're logging in with the right role. Now, every organization that signs up in the Grants Gateway, the first people or person that we sign up is in the role of Grantee Delegated Administrator. And that person can manage your users in your account, and they can also work on the document vault. So they can, if you notice, they cannot work on contracts or applications. So if you're in the role of Grantee Delegated Administrator and you're wondering why you can't save anything in a contract or do any, put in any details in your contract, that's why. So the Grantee Delegated Admin, though, has the rights to actually create new accounts. So you're going to need somebody in one of these other accounts, and the Grantee Delegated Admin would do that. The other thing, like I said, is the document vault. That's pre-qualification. That's beyond what we're going to be doing here, but it is important that your organization is pre-qualified. The state contract rules state that you have to be pre-qualified when you sign or essentially accept a contract. So before you enter into the contract and have it signed, you do have to make sure your organization is pre-qualified if you're a not-for-profit. So let's talk about the other roles here. There may be somebody in the role of grantee. You do not have to have this role, but this is someone who can edit contract and application information. They can submit edited information. If they're assigned a task, they could receive emails from the system, but they cannot sign a contract. So you might have somebody who's maybe a grant writer who works on the details of your budget or your work plan. That's fine, but just realize that person or whoever's in that role cannot sign a contract. So that's grantee. But the two people here on the right, they can. So grantee contract signatory and grantee system administrator, they basically have the same exact rights. So they can do all the things that the grantee could do. They can edit the contract, the budget, the work plan, all the information in the contract. They can submit it. They will receive emails from the system if they have a task. And in addition, they can sign contracts. So you definitely have to have somebody in the role of either grantee contract signatory or grantee system administrator, because you're never going to be able to sign a contract unless you have somebody in one of those roles. So the easiest way is if it's going to be the same person working on everything, just give them a grantee contract signatory role. And one other thing to mention here, where people do get tripped up is the grantee delegated admin can create new roles and add new people. That's fine. You can add, 4 or 5 roles for yourself if you want. They can have the same email address. You can even use the same password. But there's an option in there that lets the delegated admin change the person's role, and that doesn't work. So even though it's there and it seems like it might be the easy way to do it, that will not work if you change someone's role. You have to create a new account for someone if they don't have the right rights, the appropriate rights just yet. So after your grant was awarded, there's a couple of steps that it goes through. First of all, the agency staff developed contract parameters. Things like, is there an advance or not an advance, when are payments due, things like that. That's already been done. Next is the contract details are updated and reviewed. That's where we are right now, and it could be done on the agency side at DOL, or it could be done on your side at your organization. And it could be kind of a back and forth between those two where things are being developed. Maybe you enter in some items and then DOL will get it back and say, oh, we need you to fix that, or please go and change that, and they would send it back to you. So this could kind of be the second step here, could really be a loop for quite a while. We hope it doesn't take that long. We've given you in the schedule 7 days to do what you need to do, and that should be adequate to get your details in and get it submitted to us or get it submitted to DOL. Once that's done, there's a couple internal approvals. Program manager and contract manager approve the contract, and then it gets sent back to you, and this time for signature. So if you remember those roles, this first tick up here, the second item, grantee, contract signatory, grantee system administrator could have done all of that. But this third one here, contract sent to contractor for electronic signature, that can only be done by the grantee system admin or the grantee contract signatory. And you'll see when I log into our system here, I'm going to be logging in as a grantee contract signatory. And then finally it goes through more signatures signed by the state, and it becomes an executed contract that you can now start working on. So you will have 2 tasks throughout this process. The first one is where many of you have it right now, in the task of contract information requested, meaning the program manager or contract manager has reviewed the contract and they're asking for more information from you. They're asking for you to fill out things like your address, some budget details, and the biggest one, or most importantly, is the work plan. They could be asking for a change in this case too. Maybe you already worked on it, you sent it back to them, and they said, oh, we need you to tweak this one area here. So this is where we are right now, contract info requested, and it's time for you to fill in the details of your contract. And again, it's going to go through approvals and then finally be sent to you to get signed, and that's that grantee contract signature required. At that point, everything's locked in, nobody can make any changes anymore, and you would electronically sign the contract. And you'll see me do that in the system here as we get through here. Now, you're going to have tasks, or you may have tasks, but if you don't have tasks, you can search for your contract as well. So what a task is someone's name has been assigned to a contract. But the system does it automatically, and unfortunately the people at DOL don't have the ability to change who gets the task and who doesn't. So the system does it in kind of a methodical way, which might not give the task to the person who really needs it. So if the person did get it, it would be easy. You log in, you look at My Tasks, and it tells you how many tasks you have, and one of them would be the contract. Maybe, that's this first step up here, so task recipients would have been notified via email if they have a new task. That task would be, your contract is now in contract information requested. You could go to the home page, click on Open Tasks, and you could click on the application or contract and be in it and start working on it. If you want to search for the task, or search for the task because it's in somebody else's name, you can go to the task list, and there's a search option there to fill out certain criteria and find the task or find your contract. Even if you don't have a task, though, you can search for it. And I know this is kind of small, but up in the top you have application, contract, and tasks up here. So right here, right below that red line. Those are 3 ways of searching for your contract. So all contracts start with applications, even yours. So you could search by applications, you could search by contracts, which would make sense, and you could search by tasks. So what I was mentioning before, the My Tasks, is down here on the bottom left, but if you didn't have a task, you could still find it by searching one of these search fields up on top. And you can see where I am. I'm at the Grants Gateway. You're going to be going to, if you haven't done this before, at grantsgateway.ny.gov. So .ny.gov, and it'll bring you here to the Grants Gateway portal and allow you to log in up here in the top left. I want to point out something though, because another thing that people miss or sometimes have an issue with is a lot of people are used to just typing www when they go to a website. You can't do that with the Grants Gateway, and you can't do that with state websites, secure state websites. The way the state has it set up for all these sites is that www does not have the security certificate on it. Only the HTTPS one does. So if you put in www, you're going to get this site is not secure. You can actually go to the site, but it's going to give you this red certificate error the whole time you're working on it. Instead, don't go to www, just go to grantsgateway.ny.gov. And you know what, let me show you one other thing. A lot of people search for it in, say, a Google search. So if I do Grants Gateway, like let's say Grants Gateway login, you can see the site that it brings you to first is grantsreform.ny.gov. That's not the Grants Gateway. That's our help site, and let me just reduce the size here. That's our help website, and if you went to the Grantees tab, it would give you information about the gateway and all the different manuals we have and information for pre-qualification and registration and so on, but that's obviously not the gateway. Notice you can click here to access the gateway, and that'll bring you back to the gateway. So again, grantsgateway.ny.gov. Now for me, I'm not going to log into the live site. I'm going to log into a testing site so that I can work on a realistic contract, but not on a real one. So I'm going to log in. You can see up here, log in. And I've got a username, and it's Barbara Signatory. So she's B Signatory 1. And she types in her password and is now into the system. So notice Barbara does not have any tasks. She's a grantee contract signatory. That's one of the roles that can work on a contract and sign a contract. She can apply for a grant. That's what this view available opportunities is. She's not going to do that. She has an inbox. You can ignore your inbox. And the inbox is just messages from the system. This is probably telling me my password is expiring or I have a new password or something like that. You can ignore that because it's not related to any of the tasks that you have. So she doesn't have a My Tasks on the bottom, but she can still search for it, either by applications, by contracts, or payments. Not payments, by applications, contracts, or tasks. So she's going to search here under contracts. And you'll notice that it actually remembers the last search that you made. So I searched for one with the letter CFA and the ID, and I'm going to be able to find it that way. If you only have one or very few contracts with the state, you can just leave it all blank and hit search. And when I do that and hit search, you can see I've got 7 of them because we've done a lot of testing with this organization here. So if you needed to refine it, you can see CFA is part of the application number. We can see that's part of the ID if I wanted to, so I could type in CFA in Grant Opportunity ID, hit search, and find that one. Okay, so if we look at mine, a couple things we can infer from this. So every contract has a unique application number. Mine happens to be DOL for Department of Labor, CFA 7, 2017, and mine happens to be application number 112. It's really no bearing on what you do, but that's where you're going to click to actually get into it. You can see my contract number is DOL We'll see that on my contract. C17220. So I'm contract number 17220. So if you ever want to reference that in maybe an email, the short way of writing it is, you know, my contract number C17220, I have a question about it, something like that. You can see it's a fixed term. That term is from 12/14/2017 to 12/13/2018. It's a one-year contract. The name of my organization is Sample Organization. And it's in that status of contract info requested. That's that first one where you can start working on it. And you can see the amount is $98,500. So I don't want to click on Sample Organization. That's my organization name. It'll get me to the document vault and things like that. I want to click on Application Number. So again, the quick way, go to Contracts, type in CFA for the Opportunity ID, hit Search, and then click on the Application Number. So you've done that. Now you're at the contract main page. And you can see it's kind of a roll-up of what's going on here, but really the details of it, or the meat of it, is in here in the Forms menu. So just to point out the navigation here, you've got Menu, which will bring you back to this main page. Forms menu are all the different forms and documents and pages that you need to work on, and we'll be clicking on that and going through those. Status changes, when you're done and ready to submit it back to your contract manager, you're going to do this Apply Status here. Management tools, not much you can really do here. You can check if you have errors. The system will tell you where you haven't done something that was required. Right now we haven't done anything, so there'll be a lot of errors. Or we could add edit people. And if I clicked on Add Edit People, I can see these are the people who are assigned to this. And notice, unfortunately, it doesn't let me change it. But my name, Barbara Signatory, is not checked. That's why she didn't have a task. That's why she didn't have get the email. So the people who are in the role of grantee will get that task first. Just the way the system's set up. And unfortunately, we can't really change that. So I went back to the Forms menu, or I went to the Forms menu. The last button here, Progress Reports and Related Documents, unrelated to this, so you can ignore that. If you were doing payments or progress reports later, you'd be able to work on that. I don't think they're using this for payments in the system, so you can ignore it. But don't ignore Forms menu. That's where everything you're going to be doing resides. So hover on it or click on it. You notice I've clicked on it. One last thing is this Details button. You can see I can toggle it open and closed, and that just shows me a couple bits of information about it. One, the role that I'm in, that's important to remember you're in the right role, and two, the status that we're in right now, contract info requested. Okay, so let's take a look at the Forms menu here. First one is Contract Document Properties. There's nothing you can do in this page, but you might want to see the individual pages of the contract. Now really there's no point in it because later on in the Forms menu you'll see you can just preview the contract and it'll show all of these documents. But it's got the attachment A1, which I could click on View File and see what that is. Every contract will have a Part 3 Attachment D. This is a addendum essentially to Attachment D that we'll see when I look at my contract. There's some MWBE information. Talk to your contract manager about those if you have questions about how to fill them out or what's provided. This one is going to be an EET contract, and if you're an EET contract, you have a master list of trainees to fill out. So if I was to click on View File here and open it up, you can see this is blank, but this PDF would be filled out by you if you have an EET contract. You'd fill it out and it would be send it to your contract manager and it would become part of your contract. And then budget detail attachment. So I'm going to click on View File just to show you again. This one is blank. Obviously your budget detail document will have the details of your budget. So you'll see when we go through the Forms menu there's a budget section. We're not going to fill out the budget and details there. We're going to do it on this PDF. So mine is going to be blank. I'm not going to go through the time to fill that out, but you guys will obviously have to be doing that. So let me close those. So that's what makes up your contract documents. But what about the details of your contract? Let's go back to the Forms menu and get into those details. So first of all, print application would give you kind of a preview of all the different pages. No need to do that right now. Maybe later you might want to check it out, but right now everything's going to be blank. Full version of RFP. Well, there is no RFP here. You didn't apply for it. This isn't an application. So all that is a link to the labor website. So you can ignore that. Application versions, it's just a part of the Forms menu that's there all the time. We did not apply for this in the gateway, so there's not going to be an application version. So the first part you need to start working on is this red hand here, and that's contract information. And what this is the system we have a system at the state called SFS, the Statewide Financial System. In there is your payment information and some more information about your organization. For instance, your bank account where you get paid if you submit claims. Well, the gateway doesn't know. You might have multiple addresses. Maybe you have different sites. You have a admin building and then some other building. The gateway doesn't know which addresses are right for your contract, so it wants you to pick the right address. Now, in my case, there's only one address, so there's nothing really to choose from. But it still wants you to review this page and hit save up in the top just to lock everything in place here. If you did have multiple addresses, you would click the drop down, pick that address, and hit save. If your address was incorrect, that's nothing that you can change in the gateway. You would have to have it changed in SFS, the Statewide Financial System, first, and then once that happens, a day or two later, that gets updated in the gateway. So if you're stuck with that, you can talk to your contract manager at DOL and they can help you with that. But hopefully everybody's will be fine and you'll just come here and hit save. Notice when I hit save, that error has gone away. If I go back to the forms menu, that red hand is gone and you can see Barbara signed it, or Barbara saved it at 10:58 and 59 seconds. All right, next is the project site address. So I'll call this my building. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It's not going to show on the contract, but you do need to provide your address. And you can see it's just say 123 Main Street, Albany County, 12345, let's say. Now, regional council, agency specific region. Notice it wants you to pick the regional council. So if you don't know what that is, I'm going to open another tab here. It's regional councils. I thought I had it saved, so I'll just say regional councils NYS. I'll just Google it. It's regionalcouncils.ny.gov. So this is the governor's regional economic development councils. And there's information here that tells you about your council, what council you're in. It's all geography related and gives you some information about it. So if I go back to the gateway, my regional council is obviously just geographically based. So if I'm in Albany, I'm in the capital region. But if you didn't know, you could click on here, read about it, and select the appropriate one. Agency specific region, you can see not required, so you can leave that blank. And I'll hit save. All right, so I saved my address. If for some reason you needed to add a second address, that's fine. You can click on add, and you can just fill it out again. So if I added another one, and hit save, notice that I have now a drop down that I can toggle between the two. Again, it really doesn't matter. This will not end up on your contract, but you do have to fill out at least one address. So notice I did two of them. I clicked back on Forms menu, and it's telling me I have two here. Third in this section, program information, is program-specific questions. Now, in an application, this page is used for you to answer all the questions that are being asked. Obviously, this is not an application, but there's an important part here that needs to be filled out, and that's this project title. Now, DOL has told us that they will be filling it out for you, so you don't have to worry about it. However, I noticed some might not be filled out yet, so they may give you in an email what to fill out, or they'll type it for you. So I'm just going to write my title here, which I forget what it was going to be. I'll just call it Occupational Skills Training. That may not be right, but DOL will give you guidance on that. And the way this works is that you have to answer at least one question. They have to provide one question, just the way this page works. So the question is, are you pre-qualified if you're not-for-profit? So It's a good reminder, though, that you do have to double check and make sure your organization is pre-qualified. So I'm answering yes to that and hitting save. So we did project information, program information. We're now going to look at the budget. The good thing about this is you don't have to fill out all these categories here. What we're asking you to do, and this is different from many other contracts we do in the Grants Gateway, is we just want you to fill out other, and then you'll have the attachment which will have your budget details. So normally you would have to put in details for all these sections here. Don't do that. Just go to other and fill it out. Now, if you don't know how much your contract was awarded for, let's go to expenditure summary and see. So it's giving me an error because I was awarded $98,500, yet my budget adds up to $0. So all I'm going to do is enter in $98,500 in the other category, and then we're going to reference that contract, that budget document that's going to be found later in our contract. So let's go back to the Forms menu. We'll go down to Other Expenses Detail, and we're going to write, I've got it written down here, so hold on. So I'm an EET, and I'm going to call it Existing Employee Training, see Detailed Budget Attachment. And you can do that the same thing for the title and the justification. Only the title will show on our contract. And remember that number in mine was $98,500, so I'll write $98,500 and I'll hit save. Okay, the error, there was no error on this one, but it does say my information has been saved. There's that $98,500. Let's go back to the expenditure summary and notice there is no error anymore. I've taken care of that issue, which was this didn't add up to this, and now they do. So that was the easy part here. I've made sure that my budget adds up to whatever my award amount was. All right, so we'll go back to the Forms menu. And the part that you're going to have a bit more work to do in is the work plan. So you can see the work plan is separated into two sections. We've got the work plan overview form, and we've got objectives, which encompasses objectives, tasks, performance measures. So I'll click on work plan overview form and start with that. First of all, what is the period of your work plan? And it's the period of your contract. So mine was 12/14/2017 to 12/13/2018. Now, the project summary. You can see this says provide a high-level overview of the project, including the overall goal and desired outcomes. So this is something that will end up on the contract. So it's important that you're concise, that you are, it's complete. It's not, very generic, and try to make sure you don't have spelling errors or grammatical errors in it. So notice it allows up to 50,000 characters. Feel free to type that in, let's say Microsoft Word or something like that, and you can spell check it and add bullet points or things like that, and then copy and paste it in here. I'm just reading my notes here. I wanted to see. So we want you to update. We want to enter the project description, a high-level overview, and overall goal of the project, which should include target group, area served, and program needs. Okay. So I obviously don't have something prepared right now, but I'll write here is my project summary, and maybe I'll write a few more lines of it. Don't make yours look like this. Then I want to point out, notice it counts the number of characters you filled out. I've got 832 out of an allowed 50,000. So again, if you copy it and paste it from Word, that's fine. And then the last part here on this page is organizational capacity. No reason to fill that out. This does not appear on the contract. DOL has said they just want you to type in NA. You have to fill something out here. Because of this red asterisk down here, you do have to put something in that field, but NA is fine, and you can hit save. Now, this is a good time for me to point out the timeout in the system. The system will time you out after 20 minutes of inactivity. And just you typing in a field is not seen as activity by the system. Activity would be hitting the save button or changing a page. So let's say you came here and you realize, you start typing it maybe, and you realize that you get a phone call or you want to write it somewhere else. If you don't hit save within 20 minutes, you're gonna lose whatever you've typed on this screen. All the other screens are fine. Everything else you've saved is fine. But just remember that, because if you're taking a while to fill something out and you're kind of halfway done, if you didn't hit save, you're going to lose it. So get in the habit of saving, every 10, 15 minutes at most, so you don't get into that situation. If you're copy and pasting from Word, it's probably only going to be, 2 minutes when you're on this screen. Okay, so I did that first part. I'm going to go back to the Forms menu and notice work plan. You can see Barbara has filled it out and she saved it at 11:10, and then objectives. So you might remember I said there's objectives, tasks, performance measures. It starts with objectives, and in this case, my program manager has filled it out for me. Provide occupational skills training. And my understanding is that they will be doing that for you. So your objective, that should be the name of your objective. You don't really need a description. You certainly can fill it out. But it will not appear in the contract. So don't sweat over trying to describe it perfectly in 1,000 characters. It won't end up on the contract. But now that I have an objective, if I hover over Forms menu, you can see Tasks is an option. That's the only way to get to Tasks. If I go back to the Forms menu and I go down to the Work Plan section, I can't get to Tasks from here. You have to click on the objective, then hover over Forms menu, and go to Tasks. So for tasks, they want you to enter the course name and the skills to be acquired. So I'm just going to call this course name 1. Here are the skills for course name 1. And hit save. Okay, so I could click on add up here and add a second task to my first objective, or, which I'm going to do, is hit Forms menu and add a performance measure. So what they want you to fill out here is something like method skills will be documented, or maybe something like this, document skills. Method skills will be documented by, certificates. Something like that. We also might want to see the number. So I could do, I've hit save there. And let's add another performance measure. Click on add. Maybe I'll say number of trainees, and then, train, 100, I don't know if these are real numbers or not, 100 people. So you'll have a little more detail like that. You'll have a little more guidance from your project or contract manager, but that's what you're going to be entering here. So the idea here is performance measures are things that are measurable. So we can say, we can look later and say, were their goals attained? How well did they do? Nobody's in trouble if you don't achieve your goals, but it's a good way of obviously managing the contract and managing, our expectations of them. So I've done there's one objective, one task, which has 2 performance measures. If I wanted to add a second task, a second class, I would have to go back to Forms menu, go back to Tasks, go back to Objectives. I'm sorry, no, go back to Tasks, because I'm going to keep the same objective. And remember, I had my first task, course name 1. If I click on Add, I could add another task called course name 2. Here is info about course 2. Hit save. Go to the Forms menu and add a performance measure for that. number of trainees, program will train XX people, and hit save. Okay, so I've added, there's one objective that was already filled out for me. I've added 2 tasks. First task had 2 performance measures. The second task had 1 performance measure. You'll see when I preview my contract what that looks like. So you're going to be spending a good amount of time, I believe, here in the work plan section going through your objectives, tasks, performance measures. So I showed you how to do it. You do have to talk to DOL about what to put in there and really what details they want from you. So when is the deadline for completing the contract, somebody asked. Your contract start date was 12/14. So obviously that's a month ago, almost a month ago. So we want you to get these done ASAP so you can start work on the contract and actually start invoicing for it. So the quicker you do this, the better. Obviously, we know you can't get it done today or tomorrow, whatever it is, that's fine. They've budgeted in the time, in the schedule, 7 days for you to enter your information, and then there's 7 days for DOL to kind of fine-tune everything. That doesn't mean it's going to take that long for each status, but there's, you know, a good 30, 40, maybe even 60 days built into contract development. You can help that by, you can help shorten that by doing things quicker. So, you know, there's no mandate for you to get it done right away, but if I were you, I would do it as soon as possible because the days you take affects the whole overall process of the contract. So let's just point out a couple other things. Let's refresh here. We went in, we searched for the contract. It was in the right status of contract info requested, which allows you to make edits. The edits I made was I saved my address, which are my mailing addresses, which you'll see in the contract. I entered in my actual project addresses. I answered that one question, are we pre-qualified? I filled out my other expenses, which was $98,500, because the details of those expenses will be on my budget attachment. I filled out the work plan overview form, which is you know, somewhat details or a lot of details of what we're going to be doing with my project. And then I filled out my objectives, or really my tasks and performance measures. How are we going to, you know, what are our high-level goals or our milestones or our training classes that we're offering, and how are we going to measure success with those? 2 other sections you want to look at here, you're going to need to address is the pre-submission uploads. So they need 2 things from you. And one of them is more important than the other, and that's this workers' compensation. So you can see these are both red asterisks, meaning that you do have to provide something here. So we need your workers' comp, your updated workers' comp and disability insurance certificates. So I'm going to click on Browse and just find a random document on my computer called Sample Attachment. You would obviously include the right attachment, your workers' comp and disability insurance. I'm going to hit Save, and it'll give me an error because I forgot to do Appendix D. Now, Appendix D, my understanding is they don't really need this from you now. It's going to be other part of the contract, but unfortunately the system is requiring something. It'll never let me submit this contract back to DOL if I don't have something here. So just add anything. I'm going to add that sample attachment. You can, you know, copy your workers' comp again if you want. You know, add a picture of your dog or something. I'm not sure exactly what they want there, but you have to have something. Okay, so I've taken care of those requirements. I needed 2 attachments here, and I certainly needed my workers' comp. Back to Forms menu. So that was my pre-submission uploads, and finally is the grantee document folder. If there are other documents that you need to provide and they didn't specifically fit in the program-specific questions, or maybe your program or contract manager is asking for it, you can put them here. You don't need to, and please don't unless you really asked, but just in case, there's this grantee document folder, and I'll call this another doc we need. That's my description, and I'll go to Browse, I'll attach it, and here is that other document and I'll hit save. So I've added one. I could view the file of what I've attached. But if I want to add another, I can click on add, get a blank field, fill it out, and save it. You can add as many as you want. And then there would be a drop down here where you could pick which file to look at if you wanted to. So that's fine. If you need to provide something, the Grantee document folder in the Forms menu will allow you to do that. Okay, so that's everything that's required of us here. Before I send it back, I would probably like to preview my contract and see what it looks like. So I suggest you do that as well, and that's down here in the bottom in the contract section. So contract versions, you can see will be blank. That's only when it starts going for signatures where the versions are filled out. So there's nothing you can do there yet, but you'll see it later when we get it signed. But contract preview I can do. So let me go to contract preview, and what it'll do is click open it's going to create one right now as it stands with all that information that we had in there. So if I didn't fill out my budget properly, it would show incorrect. If I didn't fill out my work plan, it would show empty. So this is what I have to this very moment, what my contract would look like. All right, so I'll click on open to view this PDF, and this is the contract. And I want to spell out, or I want to go through a state contract with you so you know what it looks like and you know what yours should look like. Okay, page one is obviously kind of an overview here. We've got my contract number. You remember I was C17220, GG for Grants Gateway. We can see who I'm contracting with, Department of Labor. This is a fixed term agreement. This is the name in SFS of my organization. And this is my Department of State Incorporated name. Sometimes they're the same. You can see in my case they're different. This is a new contract, and the project name is Occupational Skills Training. Remember that. Remember where that came from? If I go back to the Forms menu and back to Program-Specific Questions, which I already filled out, that's where that comes from. Project title here becomes project name on your contract. Okay, my vendor ID number, which is fake, my tax ID number, which is fake, the CFDA, this is federally funded, so there's a CFDA number. You don't have to worry about it, but it's going to be on these. My mailing addresses. So remember that page where I saved my mailing addresses. That's this. If they were different, the check mark would not be there, and I would see a different address. I'm a not-for-profit, and here's an issue with my organization that I need to take care of. I don't have my Charities Registration number filled out or an exemption code. So you should be aware of that. Your Charities Registration number needs to be on the contract. If it's not, somebody needs to fix it. And let me take a little quick break to show you that. If I go back to the gateway, and I can get to my organization information. I could click it up here. I could click it down here. Now, I'm not in the right role. I don't have a save button on this page, but your grantee delegated admin and even someone in the role of grantee can come here to organization information and fill out. You can see I didn't fill out anything here, actually. There, where is it? Higher. Right here, Charities Registration number. So it's usually a 2-digit dash 2-digit dash 2-digit number. So you have to make sure that's there. The Charities, the Department of State Charities Bureau website has it. And there's other ways you can find it. You should know it or you should have it somewhere. But that does need to appear in your contract. If you saved it here and then you did a contract preview again, it would show here. All right, that's page one. Page two is that term. It's from 12/14 to 12/13. The period and the term are the same because it's a one-year contract. It's for $98,500 in my case. It's not a multi-year contract, so ignore this section down here. Page three shows the attachments. So we've got the attachment A, which is the program-specific terms and conditions. We've got attachment B, which is the budget. Now, we know our budget has a little more detail at the end of it. We have a work plan. Attachment D is the payment reporting schedule. And then there's 5 other attachments that are part of this. So your contracts will either have 5 attachments or 4. If you are a EET, you'll have the master list of trainees. If you're not that type of project, I forget what the other one is called, a unemployed worker training, UWT, you won't have the master list of trainings. So you'll have either 4 or 5 on it. And these were added by DOL, so you can't add them or edit them, but you're going to be providing them with the details of those documents. So Part 3, Attachment D, I'll show you that. You've got 2 MWBE attachments, and again, since I'm an EET, it's the master list of trainees and that budget document we've been referring to. So those will all appear at the very end of my contract. Next is the signature page. Nobody signed this yet, but once I do, you'll see my printed name here and you'll see it signed. There's nothing in cursive that shows when you sign it. It's all just basically a date and time stamp and your name stamp from the system. But these are considered secure, state validated and accepted signatures. We've been doing this statewide for several years now. Okay, the next few pages, or 25 pages, is the State of New York Master Contract for Grants. So certainly read that, know what you're getting yourselves into, basically. I'm obviously going to skip over it, but you should read it. So I'm going to skip down to page 30. And that's our attachment A1 and A2. This is what DOL uploaded for us. That was that first attachment. And you can see A1 is the program-specific terms and conditions, and A2 is federally funded grants terms and conditions. So I'm not going to read it all, but you can see it's 14 pages. So if I skip down to page 44, we're brought to our budget. So here's the last page of that attachment A1 and A2, and here's our budget. So this is the overview screen, and remember, all we had was $98,500 in other, and a total of $98,500. The next few pages break down the categories. We had nothing in personal services. We had nothing in non-personal services. So I'm going to skip through here, and you'll see just what I filled out in other. So remember I said existing employee training, see detailed budget attachment, and I wrote $98,500. That's all we did in the system. That's fine. That's what it's going to show like in the contract here. Next page is our work plan. And here's my awesome project summary. We can see if it was several pages, or it was up to 50,000 characters, it would span many pages. And that's fine. There's that date from 12/14/17 to 12/13/18. And here are my objectives, task, performance measures. So remember I had objective 1. Task 1 was course name 1, task 2 was course name 2, and here are those 2 performance measures I did for the first one, and the 1 performance measure I did for the second one. So the way it shows is title, title dash description, title dash description. So like remember I said earlier, it kind of doesn't matter what you put in for your description for objective because it won't show in the contract. So that's my work plan. Yours, I imagine, would be much more detailed. Next is attachment D, the payment reporting schedule. This talks about how payments and claims are to be made. We have a 25% advance here, and that's mentioned also in the second attachment we'll see. There's no schedule of advances, it's just a requested advance. So if you want it, you request it, and they'll pay you the advance. Your claims are due every month after the end of the month. You're not in trouble if you miss it, but we really want to make sure that these are done on time and as quick as we can, so that's why it's written this way. This is telling you what reports you're going to be required to submit. You don't need a narrative qualitative, you don't need a statistical. What you need is a final report. And final reports are due no later than 60 days after the end of the contract period. So if your contract period ends on December 13th next year, or this year actually, it's not, your final report is due on Valentine's Day of 2019. Other reports. If there's any other progress reports, it would explain it here. There are none. If there was a final progress report, it would explain it here. There isn't. So there is no table of reports. There is one extra mention here, which is the special payment reporting provisions. Not-for-profit entities may apply for an advance of up to 25%. So it just kind of reiterates what we said on that first page of this attachment. So here is that second, Part 3 Attachment D, this addendum to that. So it goes into more details about the advance. I'm not going to read it here, but, but you should. So that's a few pages here. Talks about vouchers and how to handle how to put in your claims. So please do read that and understand that part. Talks about refunds, program and fiscal reporting. So obviously, these are things you need to be aware of, you need to be familiar with. So that's Part 3, Attachment D. I mentioned the EEO, or the MWBE and EEO attachments. These are all part of your contracts. These cannot be changed, so you can look at it and see the details of it. So that's these next pages here. And then, since I'm an EET, it's a master list of trainees. Now, obviously, I didn't provide it. Your contract would never be signed unless you had this detail provided here. And your contract would never be signed unless you had your detailed budget. So here's what that CFA budget form looks like. And you would have your duration, the course name, number trained, training provider, and so on. So this is going through the costs of your details of your budget. So my budget here should add up to $98,500. Now, obviously, mine's blank. Yours should not be, and obviously won't be approved if it isn't. Here's the non-personal service costs. And then here's the total. So training plus non-personal services should add up to $98,500. And that's the end of my contract. You can see this one's 73 pages. Yours may be right around there or even a few pages longer. But that was, remember, way back where we were. I was in my contract. Let me search for it here. And we were in the forms menu. We filled everything out. And just to preview it, we went to the bottom and we did contract preview. Okay? So now I'm going to submit it. I'm done with everything I did. I looked at the contract. Looks fine to me. Obviously, it's not because they don't have a budget, and my work plan is kind of suspect, but that's okay. So I'm going to send it back to my program manager. So I am in the right role. I'm in someone who's the grantee contract signatory. I can go to Status Changes and click that Apply Status to send it back to my program manager. So that's what I'm going to do. Contract info submitted. Click on Apply Status. And it's gone. How do I know it's been moved? If I go to Details, it's now back in Program Manager Review. If I search for it, I can see it's in Program Manager Review. I can still look at it. I can go back in it. I can go back to, let's say, the work plan, but I can't make any changes now. It's locked me out from making changes. You can see I can type in here. Doesn't matter. There's no save button. So when you send it back to your PM, you've locked your changes. Now, they may send it back to you and you can edit again, but right now I can't make any more changes. So if I was, think back to that add edit people. If I was checked in that list, I would have received an email that says your contract is ready to be signed. But remember, I'm Barbara's signatory and she wasn't checked in that list. She didn't get the email. So hopefully, we're encouraging Department of Labor to email or call you to let you know, hey, we've sent it to you for signature. So I'm going to log in as Barbara signatory. And she doesn't have any tasks, but that's okay. She can go to Contracts and search for it. And it remembers what we searched for last, CFA. Click on Search, and I see it. And we can see it's in that status of Grantee Contract Signature Required. So I clicked on it. I want to go to the Forms menu because you should look at it one last time. If you scroll down, remember before we did the contract preview? Well, now you can actually look at it here in contract versions. This is the unsigned contract version, the locked version. And if I click on this PDF, it'll open it up and allow me to view the contract. Now, there's no point in me going through it. It looks exactly the same as what we just saw. But I will go through it once we sign it. Or not through it, but I'll show you the signature. Okay, so I look at it and I say, yep, I'm happy with it. Let's sign it. Or maybe there's a problem. And in that case, I'll talk to my program or contract manager. Maybe it'll ask for me to send it back. I could go to status changes and send it back to contract manager review. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to sign it. So to sign it, you log in as the right user. Again, in my case, I'm a grantee contract signatory. I go to status changes and click on the option of grantee contract signature complete. So I click on it, and it wants me to read and agree to this agreement, basically saying I am who I say I am. I'm allowed to I'm allowed to sign on behalf of my organization. I haven't given my password to somebody else, and I agree. Now, I want to say something before I do this, because we see a lot of people making a mistake here. What they do is they'll click I agree, and then while it's spinning up here in the top, they'll hit their back button or they'll go to a different website or something like that. We need you to click I agree and let it spin and let it refresh. It's not the end of the world if you do that, but what it does is it locks it up, and somebody here at the Grants Gateway has to unlock it and fix it. It's going to put it in the wrong status. So you can see that was pretty quick. It took 15 seconds or so, and it's now refreshed the page. So how do I know it's been signed? Well, I go back to details. It's now back at a different status called contract package validation. And if I go and back into forms menu, let's look at my signature here under contract versions. So there's that unsigned version, and now here's the version that Barbara signed. If I click on it, open up the PDF, and go to page 4, here's her signature. So it's just name, title, and the date it was signed. So nothing special about the signature, except for behind it, obviously, is the fact that you did it on this secure website and signed in as the right type of user. All right, so it's now going to go through other statuses. The Department of Labor will sign it, somebody at the agency. If it's more than $50,000, it'll go to the Attorney General and the State Comptroller's Office. They will both sign it. They each have 15 days to sign it. It may take them only 3 days, but in our state contract law, it says that they get up to 15 days. So once that happens, your contract will be executed. Now, if Barbara wasn't getting the emails before, she's not going to get the emails now. So you can log in and check, or we're counting on your Department of Labor contract manager / program managers to email you and say, hey, your contract's been executed and approved, everything's ready to go. So that's the process of getting it signed. It's not something I'm going to show you in the system, but if it did, you would search for it, and it would show the status of contract executed. So that's how you know if your contract's been signed, contract executed. So someone asked, how do we know if the contract is still waiting on Attorney General or State Comptroller's signature? Again, it's at 15 days, but if we did go to my contract, there's one other thing I didn't show, which is this period schedule report. So I went to my contract main page, and period schedule report does show you the progress of your contract. So it's broken into 2 sections, contract development and then approval or signatures. So we were scheduled for 15 days here and 7 days there and 7 days there. We were scheduled for 39 days of development. Obviously it took me 0 because I did it all in the last hour. Signatures, we had scheduled for 7 days, it took 0. We had scheduled for 3 for this, and so on. So you can see the last one that it stops off at the actual days is where it is right now. And you can see in the next page what days and times those statuses changed. Okay, so you can see when I signed it and when it moved on and so on. So that is, again, if you want to see the status, that's go into your contract on the contract main page or menu here and click on this period schedule report in the bottom right.
That contract number doesn't sound familiar. That's the issue.
It's supposed to start with a 17.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably the application number.
It is the application number.
Good.
Okay.
So that's why I can't find anything.
Yep. So if you do have the application, again, what I would do is just leave everything blank and hit search. Hit clear and hit search, you'll find it. I mean, I imagine you don't have 20 contracts, so you should be able to find it in this list.
That worked. Thank you. Because
Okay.
as soon as I took everything out, then it popped up at the bottom.
Okay, good.
Jeff, can I ask questions? Gloria Hessel and DOL.
Sure.
Is there any possibility in the future that the charity reg, the exempt, and the municipality codes, could we also have access? Because it's a waste of time sometimes if they don't put the charity in. If we had it, we could just put it in.
I completely agree. It's
We used to, that's why, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, if you want, just email our help desk and they'll gladly do it for you. Or
Okay.
call the help desk. We have the rights to do it, or the grantee has the rights to do it. Unfortunately, you don't.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, we don't mind you pushing it off to us if you want. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else?
This is Martin Anselm. I did write one last question on the chat, but I don't know, based upon your very first slide on your PowerPoint presentation, I don't know if you have any ability to answer that. Had to do with the Department of Labor allowing universities to bill percent effort as opposed to just billable hours for these contracts. Can you speak to that or no?
Hi, this is Julie at Department of Labor, and the round 7 of the CFA outlined how the budgets were to be developed, and depending on the program, if you're talking about an unemployed worker training program, it's based on tuition rates. That's how round 7 was designed, and also round 6 was designed around that tuition concept. So we refer you back to the RFP for the details and how the budgets were to be developed.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And I'll try to get this on YouTube as soon as possible. And you'll get emails from your contract/program managers.
Thank you, Jeff. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.